this is the regular meeting of the Select Board for September 10, 2024. I'd like to start off by moving that we go into executive session for the purpose of providing an update on strategy related to collective bargaining with each of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees and Local 950 International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, and to reconvene an open session at approximately 5:45. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Again, we will return approximately 5:45. Good evening. I'm Bernard Green, Chair of the Brookline Select Board, and this is the regular meeting of the Select Board for September 10, 2024. Let's start off with some announcements, and I have a few for, I'm sorry, yes?
I was just looking at you.
Oh, I thought you were reminding me of something. Okay. First of all, at our August 20th meeting of the Select Board, we unanimously agreed to begin the process of negotiating a new contract with the town administrator, which must be completed by March 15, 2025, for a new contract for the 3-year period beginning September 15, 2025. Secondly, I want to remind people that tomorrow is the 23rd anniversary of the September 11 terrorist attack in New York City and Washington and in Pennsylvania. Over the past few years, we have held a remembrance event with the fire department at Fire Station 5 on Babcock Street to recognize the Brookline connected people who died on that day and the bravery of firefighters generally, including the 343 New York City firefighters and paramedics who lost their lives on that day. This year's remembrance event will begin at 9 a.m. at Fire Station 5 on Babcock Street, and it will include a statewide remembrance ceremony by the fire department. I hear from many people that our simple event is very meaningful to them and greatly appreciated. So I urge people they have the opportunity to come by and participate. Thirdly, I'd like to, at the request of the principal of the Pierce School, Jamie Yadoff, I'd like to give a shout out to 2 people who really were very helpful in preparing Old Lincoln School and the Newberry campus for the use by the Pierce School students during the construction period. And those 2 individuals, town employees, Sarah Goodling, the town's operation manager, and Karen King, the Pierce School operations project manager. Thank you for your work on that project, which made it possible for that to go a lot smoother than it otherwise would. And finally, tonight is the presidential debate that begins at 9 p.m. We're going to try to be efficient in running this meeting and not as loquacious as we sometimes are, so that we can let people shift their focus from town politics to national politics, which could decide the ability of our town to function as the progressive community of which we are proud to be a part. So, because of that, I reduced the time or the length of my announcements. Anyone else have announcements they'd like to make?
Not to put too much pressure on.
Okay. Oh, you should have seen what I have written down.
I'm sorry that I do, having made the point that I was going to leave at 8:45. But I have been asked, and I to say that it may be time for us to have a presentation on the status of pilot negotiations at a public meeting, and I'll just leave it at that and ask that that be worked
Okay,
into the
Tiffany
agenda.
put it on the futures list.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well,
Tiffany, could you put up the beautiful picture I sent you?
This is one of your vacation photos.
This
I
is
hope.
not, this is, for those who think that the select board is all
Oh,
glory,
okay.
you know.
Oh, that's great.
So the reason, you know, the reason why I'm going to talk about this is because one, this is something that was incredibly unusual, an anomaly in the experience of our business districts. This got quite a bit of public interest over the weekend and yesterday and today. A broadcast media organization showed up this morning and was filming. So, you can't hear me. And so what I'd like to do is just give a little bit of background here and assure the public about what's been done. This was a situation behind several restaurants in the St. Mary's Business District that occurred over the weekend into yesterday and today. The operator of the food court in St. Mary's ended up having a challenge with their trash hauler, and this was the result. This was an incredibly unusual situation. It was a mess. But I do want to assure the public and first thank the town administrator, the Commissioner of Public Works, the Director of Public Health, all of which who showed up to attend to this situation, as well as the DPW and Health Inspector to correct the situation. It has been cleaned up. I went by there before I came here. All the trash is gone. It's understood that the trash hauler that has been contracted with will show up tomorrow to make sure that the bins are empty. And this is a super exception to the exception. And I just want to thank the town staff for responding quickly, working with the restaurants to make sure that they had the situation under control. And this situation should never, never, ever happen again. And I just want to thank the staff for doing that and assure the public that this has been corrected and we were focused on it very quickly.
So this was not students moving in.
This is not students moving in. This is 4 restaurants that share the dumpsters. Yeah.
Okay,
Students eating.
okay. I apologize for that slanderous statement.
That's
I used to be one.
Students that wouldn't do that.
John?
A couple of things. The September Town Hall newsletter has come out. You can click on a link on the brooklinema.gov website, our town website, and you will discover a really good, useful, it's useful every single month. September's is no exception. A lot of good announcements in there, keeping you up to date on all kinds of things. So I recommend highly that people read it, especially the portion of the newsletter devoted to the positions that are on boards, commissions, and other bodies that are appointed by the select board, and that are there are positions that are filled by volunteers, but some of them are currently vacant. And we're always on the lookout for talented people willing to volunteer their talents and their good thinking to various capacities that exist under our boards, committees, and commissions. And people should read the newsletter from, front cover to last page, but also pay a special attention to the section on the boards, commissions, and committees that have openings right now, and the process for people to step up and serve on boards, committees, and commissions. So that's my plug for the newsletter. And I want to second our chair's mention of the memorial ceremonies that we have every year at this time to look back at the heroes of and those who died tragically on September 11th. 9 o'clock tomorrow at the 9 o'clock tomorrow at the Babcock Street Fire Station. It's both solemn and often surprisingly informative in learning about people in your own community who have connections to the tragedy, but also the sort of glorious heroism that was inspired by the tragedy of September 11th.
Before I turn to Chaz to make a very sad announcement, I'd also like to just mention that Sunday's Brookline Day was an incredible success.
Yes.
Tiffany or whoever brought in perfect weather. And a lot of people attended, a lot of very positive comments that I've heard both there as well as later on. So that was very, very good event.
I want to thank the whole team across all the departments to make that happen. Really incredible work from Public Works, from Public Safety, you name it. All the departments that came out and participated in the mini town hall, Tiffany and Christina and the select board team who really did incredible work. But a special word of thanks to the recreation department who really who spearheaded this. It's a year-long process for them. They're already back at the table looking at how to make things better. So I want to thank Jacob Martin and the recreation department, who was the project lead there, but the whole rec team with Jacob who made that happen. Their work is just incredible. So thank you for that wonderful event.
Yeah.
I do have sad news to announce, which is that we learned over the weekend that Mike D'Onofrio, who serves as the Public Safety Budget Office Director and was a former longtime employee of the school department, passed away. He was 55, and he passed away from a sudden illness. Mike was a really beloved fixture of this community. I don't say that lightly. He worked for Brookline for almost 18 years. Tomorrow would have been his 18-year anniversary. He was a remarkable figure. He served as the treasurer at the Coolidge Corner Theater. He was deeply involved in local sports. He was a deeply aficionado of our national teams, but also participant in local teams. You would see him coming a mile away. He had a formidable collection of tracksuits that he wore. He was such a beloved boss and colleague and to employees. He would say it's Hot Dog Friday, and the employees would say, I didn't know it was Hot Dog Friday. He'd say it is now. And he would get them hot dogs. He was just a wonderful man. And his loss is really deeply felt. I believe his obituary is posted with the Lawler Funeral Home in West Roxbury. You can see information there about where donations his family would be seeking. And also the wake is on Sunday at that home, and the funeral is on Monday in West Roxbury. So for all of us here, we really want to say goodbye and express our condolences to Mike's family. A real tough loss for the community.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Tiffany, you want to lay out the ground rules?
Yes. Thank you for joining us for public comment. This is an opportunity for us to hear your perspective on the issues in Brookline that matter to you. Each person speaking tonight is limited to 3 minutes. You don't need to use the entire time, but you may if you like. Once 15 minutes has been met, there is an opportunity at the conclusion of the Select Board's business for additional comments. Members of the public sometimes raise questions during public comment. We may be able to provide a quick answer to a question, but are more likely to work with staff to get a more thorough answer and respond over email. We'll let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining and when your time is up. Please conclude your remarks at that time. If you have more to say, you are welcome to send an email to board members expressing your thoughts in greater detail. The first person we have signed up to speak tonight is Samantha Zhu, and I have Samantha online. Samantha, I'm promoting you now, and you'll be able to start your video and begin your 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Samantha. I live at 32 James with my husband, which is a block away from the Waldo Durgan project. And I'd like an update since the August 6th meeting, which I watched some of the recording for. So even though the project was paused in August to increase communication, I received none. I contacted Chestnut Hill Realty directly, and they said they're following rules when they contact only immediate abutters, so no need to contact those on James Street. Many of my neighbors were on the call. They're from James Street, so they were speaking up at the August 6th meeting, so I'm not sure why the developer still didn't contact anyone on James Street. My questions to the board are, what did the developer and the board do during the pause in August? Is there a risk of asbestos over once the demolition is over, or will there be continued risk as the debris is removed? Will residents be compensated for air filters that we have to buy? My husband and I have been reaching out to the town multiple times, but haven't received answers. So thank you for your attention.
If you can follow up with your email address, we'll try and get the answers to those questions to you over email. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, so no immediate comment?
No, we tend not to make immediate replies to public comment, but we will reply over email to you.
The select board, just the select board main email?
If Tiffany can follow up with you offline in the chat function, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, and I have your email as well, Samantha.
Okay, thanks.
We will follow up with you, but yes, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We will make sure to follow up.
Okay, we have no other speakers who signed up in advance. However, if you are online and would like to speak during public comment, you may use the raise the hand feature. We have approximately 20 speakers online. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak? It looks like no one else is raising their hand or would like to speak in the room at this time.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our calendars, starting off with miscellaneous. I'd like to vote items 5B to 5I in omnibus fashion once we pull out items 5E and 5I for discussion. Are there any other items that people would like to discuss separately? Okay. Regarding item 5E, the library is seeking authorization to fill 3 positions, and we're losing 3 valuable library staff who are resigning for various reasons. I've been asked to give a shout out to one very special librarian with unique expertise and a national reputation in library circles. That is Robin Brenner, the Teen Services Librarian. Robin is moving on to a supervisory position at the Woburn Library. And bear with me, the shout out is a little long, but I'll try to make it go fast. Robin served as a librarian for the town of Brookline for the last 18 years and was the library's first teen librarian. She was instrumental in starting the teen collection and running popular teen programs. Brenner helped design or redesign the library space that became the Teen Room, the first dedicated space for teens at the library. Brenner championed library services for teens and was named one of the American Library Association's movers and shakers in 2007. Brenner is also a comics and manga expert and represented the Public Library of Brookline annually at both national and international conferences. In the past, she has been a selector on the prestigious Prince and Odyssey Award committees. More recently, she served as the president of the Graphic Novel and Comics Roundtable for the American Library Association and has used her expertise to curate Brookline's large graphics and manga collection for both teens and adults. Something you probably didn't know about, right? During her time in Brookline, Brenner was often the creative mind behind many of the library's largest and most successful programs. From bringing talented authors to our libraries for visits to coordinating large-scale annual events. Brenner expanded the library's programming to fit the evolving interests and needs of our patrons. Beyond these impressive events, her unwavering dedication to teen patrons was a daily effort and one that Brookline's families will miss dearly. And let me just say, programs like this for teens is so important. The teen years are very difficult years, and to have an opportunity to do something like programs in the library can make a big difference between whether they go one way or another or successful later in life. I know that was the case for me when I was a teenager. The Select Board, on behalf of the town of Brookline and its many past, present, and future teens, thank you, Robin, for your 18 years of service to Brookline. We wish you well in your future endeavors and take pride in our contribution to your continued success. Thank you to Robin Brenner.
Great.
Next, regarding item 5I, this was appropriately placed in the miscellaneous category because it is the acceptance of an annual federal grant given for a variety of important municipal public safety purposes. However, it is our practice to pull out miscellaneous items for deeper discussion when a select board member or a member of the public raises a concern or a question. A couple of our residents have raised questions about this grant, so I asked Chief Pastor to give some more detailed background on the vehicle being purchased by it, including its value for the type of incidents that have occurred or may in the future occur in Brookline. Is Chief Pastor on Zoom there?
Chief, I've promoted you.
Thank you and good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate you pulling this item out and for giving me the opportunity to provide a little bit more detail that I hope will help ease some of the concern. So I will acknowledge the fact that $227,000 is a large amount of money. And I do want to clarify these funds have been earmarked by the UASC, by UASC specifically for the purpose of procuring this vehicle. We are currently the only jurisdiction within UASC who does not own an armored vehicle that would offer protection for our officers or members of our community should the unthinkable happen. Most other communities, in fact, own what we refer to as Bearcats, which are far more militaristic in appearance, and they are far more expensive. So we are trying to be mindful of both the cost and the appearance when selecting this vehicle, which is a 2024 Mercedes Sprinter van, to minimize, the militaristic appearance while still getting the benefits that, unfortunately, we feel in this day and age that we need. So just to provide some clarification, in my notes, in very simplistic terms, what this vehicle is just, it's an unmarked vehicle. In my opinion, it does not appear militaristic, and it's the equivalent of a ballistic shield or the ballistic vest that we wear every day. It's just obviously larger and on wheels and easy to transport. Its purpose is strictly defensive and to protect lives. I understand the concern, that a community member raised, that it might not be needed that often. And quite frankly, I hope that we never need it. And I would equate it to having the infant Tylenol in your cupboard when you have a little one at home. You hope you don't need it, but you're sure glad you have it when you do. And I am happy to answer any more specific questions about, the model itself to the best of my ability. But hopefully that helps clarify some of the concerns that were raised.
Thank you. Let me just add that UASC means Urban Areas Security Initiative, which is a federal program that provides federal money to purchase equipment such as this van. Any questions? John?
Yes, I want to just stipulate that I think that the individuals who have raised questions about this very appropriately, pointed out that this perhaps deserves a little bit more consideration than it would have gotten if we had simply voted it in a bundle as part of the miscellaneous consensus agenda. So I thank them for that. I also think that the chief did a very appropriate job of addressing the questions that were raised. I remain a little bit in doubt as to whether we should take this vote tonight for the following reason. And perhaps some answers can be provided right now. We have what's known as the Surveillance Technology and Military Type Equipment Committee, which, as I understand it, was created by town meeting action and specifically to address questions that sometimes arise about the technologies and equipment that enter into our use in our police department through a pipeline to equipment that was originally for some kind of surveillance purpose or some kind of military purpose. And that we created that committee for the purpose of reviewing these types of questions, the type of question we're facing right now with this piece of equipment. And so I need to know, has that committee had a chance to take a look at this and advise us? And I'm not saying that their word on whether we should vote in favor of this should be final, but have they had a chance to advise us? Because it seems to me if we created that committee or if town meeting created that committee for that purpose, we should be hearing from them before we vote on this.
Okay, let me just say, first of all, Scott Ananian, one of the members of the committee, is in the audience. We're trying to wind this committee down and find some other ways to handle some of the issues that it was designed to handle. One of which is a recommendation that the police department provide a annual report on UIC funded equipment and vehicles that interim chief Mark Morgan began doing. And I asked Chief Pastor to continue that process, which would be a report to the select board or maybe to the PCAC. We should think about whether that's an option as to what type of equipment and vehicles are being acquired using UASC funds. And it's certification, or at least a statement that this equipment or vehicles are not of a militaristic sort, and don't violate any of our bylaws or other rules. Typically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Pastor, we've used these funds for everything from training and cars or vehicles to T-shirts. So, I mean, it's a broad scope of things. Although it's been abused in many communities around the country, I don't believe that that is the case here in the Boston metropolitan area, and clearly not with respect to the Brookline Police Department. The acquisitions that we, things that we acquire are clearly within the scope of a civilian municipal police department. So,
Bernard?
yes.
So I think I'm perfectly happy to vote on this now. I think it's very important to note that this is a modified civilian vehicle. You can go down to a Mercedes dealer and buy a Sprinter van anytime. This is reinforced internally, and it is a defensive as opposed to an offensive device. It's not like buying machine guns, and it's not like buying a Humvee that's going to go through somebody's building. It's a refuge, basically, in case there's a need for a vehicle that is armored. And you can't pick up the newspaper today without seeing that some nut somewhere has taken a gun and started shooting in a public place. I think it's really important for us to recognize that it can happen anywhere, and that if this is a vehicle that will help us mitigate a situation like that, that there's no particular reason not to have it.
Paul?
Yeah, Bernard, thank you. And Chief, thank you for your explanation. Also, earlier today, I know you replied to a number of inquiries, which I appreciate the community raising their concerns. I looked at the vehicle, the specifications that you provided. I think, as my colleague Mike Sandman had said, this is a nondescript, essentially a panel truck, Sprinter van that has been reinforced. It doesn't look military at all. It is, in fact, for defensive purposes. And it's insurance, just in case. It is a shield. And I just want to remind people that we've had some significant threats against synagogues, other religious institutions. We've had threats against schools. We've had school shootings. Recently an individual was just picked up who was threatening to attack a synagogue in New York City. And they were picked up by Homeland Security. Thankfully, that was averted. You only need this once, and you never want to have it used. So I am very comfortable with this. This is not a military vehicle. This is a public safety vehicle to protect the public and the individuals that we rely on as first responders, and they should have every tool at their disposal to protect themselves and to protect the public. So I'm very comfortable in approving this evening.
John?
Yes, and it seems obvious that I might be a minority of one on this, but it wouldn't be the first time. I would ask my colleagues, do you disagree with me when I say that we created the Surveillance Technology and Military Type Equipment Committee, and town meeting created that committee specifically for the purpose of reviewing these kinds of purchases? Do you disagree with me on that?
No,
No,
that's
I don't think that's true.
well, I guess it is, but on the other hand, if we're trying to wind down the committee and assign those responsibilities elsewhere, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
But I have to admit, the phrase "we're trying to wind down that committee" is new to me. That was news to me to hear that. I didn't know we were trying to wind down that committee. If it was a committee created through an action of town meeting, can we, simply announce that we're winding it down? We still have it, as far as I know. It's listed on the town website. It has membership. One of the members of the committee is here right now. So two of them, excuse me, I obviously missed somebody, but, you're assuming, actually, it sounds to me, as though you are assuming the role played by that committee. You're declaring this is not a military piece of equipment. And we created that committee for the purpose of determining what is a military style piece of equipment and what is not. So if you want to just ignore the committee, then just say, we're going to ignore the committee and not let them play a role in this. But I think that's a change in how we have done this in the past. I'm not comfortable with it.
Scott Ananian is in the audience and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but the charge to the committee did not provide for a continuing oversight. It provided for a report. And we did that report like 3 years ago and issued it. What we're trying to wind down now is the surveillance aspect to our work. And that's been very difficult for a variety of reasons. But you know, one of the recommendations was to set up a procedure for giving notice to the select board of items such as this funded by UASC. And, you know, that was done for a while, and I'm trying to get it reestablished. That was, you know, the one thing that did have a gap. Paul?
So I appreciate John raising the issue about the committee and the committee's charge, and is it still in force? And frankly, we should add that to a future discussion about the future of that committee. I, for one, don't see this as a military vehicle. This is a piece of equipment. It is a public safety vehicle that happens to be reinforced so that those inside of it cannot be harmed by ballistic missiles and ammunition. It's not a surveillance piece of equipment. It's literally a public safety vehicle that will protect our officers and the public. And I don't, you know, I'm concerned about us second guessing at every step of the way, you know, our chief and our public safety leadership on the direction that they're going with the police department. I'm very comfortable with the leadership. I think they're pragmatic and thoughtful. They're open to, you know, the public safety committee that we have in place. And we're providing oversight. I don't see this as needing a committee to review a request for a public safety vehicle. That's a van that's been reinforced to protect the officers and the public. So again, I'm very comfortable moving forward with this evening.
Okay, unless there are any other questions, I'd like to move approval of items 5B through 5I, including the two that were pulled out for discussion. All in favor, please indicate by saying, unless you want to pull out the van so you can vote on it separately.
Yes.
Okay, so I move approval of items B, actually, 5B through 5, what's the letter before I? H. 5H. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Mike Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Now, I move approval of item 5I, acceptance of an award from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Urban Area Security Initiative Grant Program for an emergency, for a vehicle in the costing the amount of $227,000. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
No, and I would like the minutes to stipulate that this expression of no is not a no to the vehicle, because I don't feel I have a chance to vote on the vehicle until after the committee that we appointed for the purpose of reviewing these kinds of purchases, has had a chance to review it. It hasn't had a chance to review it, so I don't feel that the vote should be taken tonight. That's why I'm voting no.
Okay, Michael Sandman. And
Aye.
the minutes will reflect that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you pulled it up.
Okay,
Aye.
Paul Warren
Aye.
and David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay,
Can I ask that
Yeah.
we have some interviews, and we originally had agreed that we would try and move interviews of these folks earlier in the meeting. Could we? The next item is not it may take us a little bit of time, and I wonder if we could go to the interviews.
yeah, I think that's probably appropriate. request. Anyone object?
It is just that we noticed those items for 6 and 6:30.
Oh, okay. Notice that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're really stuck with this.
I'm
schedule.
sorry, but
Yeah.
they're public hearings.
Mm. Okay,
You're kind of in a rock and a hard place.
right, yeah, we are, because we similarly,
Let's
we
move
thought
quick.
that we get to meet
Okay, so
everybody.
let's talk fast.
All right,
Next, our calendar, Transportation Demand Management Plan for NETA. This is a public hearing. Who's going to make a presentation on this? Have NETA on the line?
We have Netta's counsel and we have Jonathan Simpson from Town Council's office
Okay.
are both here.
I see Jennifer DePazzo is,
Jonathan, I've also just promoted you.
Hi, thank you. Jennifer DePazzo Gilbert, I represent NETA. And several months ago, we got in contact with the Transportation Division and requested that they consider removing the requirement that's currently in the Transportation Demand Management Plan that requires NETA to have 6 private spaces that are rented across Route 9 on Boylston Street going east. We don't believe we need those spaces anymore, and I have been working with Dan Martin in the Transportation Division to get him some more information. That is ongoing. I've also spoke to Jonathan Simpson, who made a determination, and I don't necessarily disagree, that the language in the license at paragraph 20, which is actually attached as an exhibit to the host community agreement, seems to indicate that the select board can be involved in the TDMP. And so I see that on the calendar, the question is whether to designate or direct the Transportation Division to take a look at this request, and obviously have no objection. And I'm still working with the Transportation Department. They had some additional information that they wanted that we're gathering, and I'll continue to work with Dan Martin. But if there's anything else specific for me that I can answer tonight, I will. And happy to take further direction from Jonathan and whoever. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a delegation of authority here, so that the Transportation Division can sign off on this if you're satisfied that this is a situation where they're going to be able to do the due diligence and make the determination.
so we're voting to delegate.
Yes.
That's- Okay, this, any discussion? from-
I have a quick question. I have a quick question. So there's two locations, right? There's the Comfort, the hotel.
No, the
there's-
hotel was eliminated long ago.
So those spaces are no longer utilized. So it's only the
Yeah.
6 across the street.
No,
And the
there's
parking lot.
11, there's 11 on site, and those are required with the special permit. So there's 11 existing right on this actual site. And then during the height when NETA was the only retailer in town, when it was sometimes up to 3,000 people a day, the town's traffic department required NETA to get additional spaces at the Homewood Suites, which they did, 25. That has since been eliminated. So we
Okay.
still have the 11 on site.
And then there's 6 across the street.
And there's the 6 across the street, yes.
Yep. So my only question is, do you know the utilization of those today? Are those mainly staying empty? Are they used for employees?
You know, on average, there's about 2 of them that are used.
Are we
Once in a
talking
while,
about
they're
the ones
used.
across the street or the ones on your
Yes,
site?
by Lamora,
Okay.
on that
Okay.
side, on the
Could you also
eastbound
answer
side.
with respect to the ones on your site? So,
Yeah, there's no real parking issue. There's no queuing. It's been reduced just because there's so many stores now, and also delivery of medical has really reduced the folks that are driving or even walking or coming to the site. And so I would say on average, in talking to my client, about 2 are used, sometimes for a manager, and sometimes for folks that are coming eastbound and they're just so used to pulling in. So obviously what we would do if the Transportation Division is satisfied with the information and believes they are in fact no longer needed, we would be sure to get that out on the website and let customers know that those are closed. So, yeah.
So the scope of the authority, the delegation would be really just those 6 spaces.
Correct.
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Yes.
that's helpful. Thank you.
If we were going to try to get rid of the 11 on-site, we would actually have to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals because that special permit had the approved site plan showing the 11 on-site.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
So this is a public hearing, and Tiffany, is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that would like to speak on this matter?
Fran Perler did sign up in advance, but I don't see Fran Perler online or in the room to speak on the matter. If anyone online would like to raise their hand to speak during this public hearing, please use the raise the hand feature to do so. There are approximately 18 participants online and no one is using the raise the hand feature. And there are a few folks in the room.
I just saw Fran enter the waiting room, so she may be hopping.
Okay. Yes, Fran is here. Fran, we are talking about the Transportation Demand Management Plan, and it's the public hearing. You've signed up in advance to speak. I'm promoting you now, and you may begin your 3 minutes if you'd like. Fran, are you with us? Fran, we can't hear you.
So Fran is signed up to speak on the 2 a.m. hearings. And then,
Oh, okay, wrong one.
Yep.
Thank you then.
sorry, Fran.
Okay. Anyone else looking to speak on this matter?
It looks like no one else is raising their hand or desires to speak at this time.
Okay, in that case, I'd like to close this hearing. And I move approval of directing the Division of Transportation to work with NETA to amend the retailer's transportation demand management plan to eliminate the requirement that the retailer rent the 6 off-site parking spaces across the street at the Mora Restaurant. Period. Okay, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? Does it then come back to us? They're doing the analysis, or are we basically saying they're going to make the decision?
They'll make the decision.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Mike Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you. Next, designated districts for 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. licenses. This is also a public hearing, and our presentation will be made by Tiffany Oliver.
Thank you. Tiffany Oliva, Assistant Town Administrator for Operations. And I am going to share a slide deck here. Okay. Back in May 2024, as a part of a regular meeting agenda, Town Administrator Chaz Carey presented to the board a memo on hours of operation outlining a need to create a more structured process for the review of requests for hours of operations beyond midnight for common victualler, liquor, and entertainment licenses. Since that time, the town has halted the review and acceptance of hours of operation requests for these license types beyond midnight. And that has led to the further development of that proposal since May. So tonight's presentation is for your information and for possible vote to authorize the Select Board Licensing Panel to review and recommend applicants for late night, which means 1 or 2 a.m., common victualler, alcohol, and/or entertainment licenses for approval on the Select Board's miscellaneous agenda if they're located in one of the 4 proposed districts that we'll talk about. Those are Brookline Village, Commonwealth Ave, Coolidge Corner, or Washington Square. And then with applicants falling outside those 4 districts to come before the Select Board on the regular agenda for review and discussion. So that's a lot up front, but just wanted to go ahead and outline what the proposed recommendation is before we drill into the details. Okay. To begin back again in May, Chaz presented those four areas: Coolidge Corner, Washington Square, Commonwealth Ave, and Brookline Village, which represented those areas that already had kind of clear lines that could be drawn with regard to closing times in neighborhoods that already have some businesses closing at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. So again, those four general areas have remained much the same, though in order to make this a bit more digestible, pun intended, for our restaurants and bar owners, we've changed some of the street boundaries since May so that they better align with the same commercial area boundaries that economic development employs in its annual storefront survey. That way, our current Brookline restaurants and bar owners would be more likely to be familiar with those boundaries. So I'm going to click through these maps for you. Oh, and these are all 8 of the commercial areas that economic development uses for your reference. Again, we're only recommending 4 for this policy. Okay, so first is Coolidge Corner. Coolidge Corner, the northmost point being the intersection of Babcock and John Street, westmost point at Marion and Beacon, southernmost at Harvard and Alton, and eastmost at James and Beacon. Washington Square with the northmost point halfway up Williston Road towards Salisbury Road, but not quite reaching Salisbury Road. Westmost point to reach Regent Circle, southernmost down to Regent Circle between there and Tappan. And then also Garrison Road being another southernmost point there, eastmost point being almost to the crosswalk at the Summit Path. The third area is Commonwealth Ave, northmost point obviously being at Commonwealth Ave, westmost at Naples Road, southernmost at the edge of Winslow Road between Babcock and Crowenshield Road, as well as Dummer Street, and then eastmost point at St. Mary Street. And then finally, Brookline Village with the northmost point near the intersection of Vernon and Harvard, westmost at Washington and Greeno Circle, southernmost point just before Acorn Road on High Street, and eastmost point at Washington Street and River Road. Hopefully, being so new, I haven't pronounced too many of those street names wrong. Thank you. If approved, we will have a live GIS map on the website so restaurants and bar owners can know which areas have been designated for expedited late night licensing. And so you can see that here. There's an overlay here of all of the districts. They can search their address and it'll show them if they're in the district or not. So drilling into what this process actually looks like, if you are in one of the 4 proposed late night districts, you would submit an application as usual with all of your materials. That would go to the licensing panel for review. And then if it has everything in order, the licensing panel would recommend for approval, and that would go onto the select board miscellaneous agenda for likely a presumptive approval. Applicants in other areas outside of the 4 districts would submit, again, their application with all of their materials. The licensing panel would review it. If it was a request for 1 or 2 a.m., we would offer them to close at midnight. If they do not want to proceed with closing at midnight, but would prefer to go forward with 1 or 2, then we would ask that applicant proceed to the select board on the calendared agenda for discussion. And so that would go on to the calendared agenda for discussion and possible vote. And it would really have to be an exceptional case for it to go forward. So some community feedback. We met with, well, first we've collaborated closely with the Economic Development Division, obviously, as this department has a bird's eye view and perhaps some of the better relationship with restaurants and bar owners. We also met with the Small Business Development Committee, Chaz and I, on June 11th to get a sense of how they felt about the proposal and if they felt late night hours was important to their business operations overall, and to find out how frequently they were actually staying open past midnight. For this public hearing tonight, we issued a newsflash and social media post last week announcing a public hearing on the proposal, which reached 495 subscribers and 1,500 unique visitors. We also posted this on our SUFA signs throughout town. The select board licensing staff also sent out letters and surveys to restaurants and bars throughout Brookline, more than 50. And unfortunately, we only received 8 total responses to that survey. Only one of those respondents currently has closing times beyond midnight. That was the Abbey. But 3 have late night licenses that they use to only open on special occasions, like on New Year's Eve. 1 felt that the costs of staying open beyond midnight were too high to make it a productive business choice. 3 felt like late night had a significant increase in their sales, and 1 felt like it had a moderate impact. The others were unsure. So in general, reviews in both the survey and with the Small Business Development Committee were mixed. But about they weren't mixed on the proposed districts. Overall, we received positive feedback about that. We did also bring a proposal to them about having a model where after midnight you could do takeout only. And that had mixed reviews in both the SBDC and on the survey. So one more thing before I close out. We did have a question that got raised in a couple of meetings, so wanted to share this data with you about police calls. So these are police calls in 2022, 2023, and year-to-date in 2024 here at the bottom. In all 4 of those districts, covering building checks, traffic stops, security alarms, crime reports, traffic crashes, and special attentions being the category that would include some of those noise complaints. You'll notice that Coolidge Corner is probably the larger driver of police calls in the 4 districts, while the others remain relatively low. Special attentions, which includes noise complaints, are probably the type of call that we receive the least amount of in the 4 districts out of the 6 categories of calls in this table. And I do want to know we reached out to Segal Reese, Director of Public Health, to just get a sense of if she's getting any calls about, or public health is getting any calls about noise violations. She indicated public health doesn't usually handle noise violations at night. They typically only get calls related to construction and equipment noise, but she hasn't heard of anything egregious in these areas. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or if there's anything Chaz wants to add.
I would just say it was great, Tiffany. I would just say the one additional thing is, right, it's only this is the option of potential expedited. Our policy on the licensing panel is if that someone raises a legitimate concern when it comes to the licensing panel, it goes to the board anyway. So this just gives the opportunity, if there is no objection, no substantive objection, for it to be put through. But obviously, if there's a concern, even if it's in one of these districts, then it comes to the board anyway.
So let me ask a question first. Tiffany, I know that you said that there's no opposition, or there was no opposition to the districts as formed. But I was curious as to why in the Coolidge Corner district you stop at Babcock Street. There's a number of restaurants north of there.
That's JFK Crossing. That basically moves into JFK Crossing there.
Oh, so JFK Crossing, but we're not including JFK
Right.
Crossing.
Because JFK Crossing, none of those restaurants are currently open past midnight. I think there's one restaurant in JFK Crossing that's open till 1. But I think that's for delivery only, is my understanding.
Well,
Yep. So thank you. Great presentation. And I was, part of the licensing subcommittee that kind of initiated this question.
Right.
There's, first, I want to offer some anecdotal experiences that I have because I live in a business district. I'm in a butter. And this is a great time of year for us and Amy and I. It's beautiful weather. You can open your windows at night. And of course, we have all the college students coming back. And it takes them about a month to figure out that they can't drink till 2, 3 in the morning and stumble back to their dorm and get value for their $90,000 a year education. So I guess that's my funny way of saying the places that are open late, and typically, this is Boston or Fenway. We do experience disruptions at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when they close. They're all trucking down our road, and we're never going to call the police. It's usually a couple of minutes of hearing them do their thing as they walk by. So that's just anecdotally that I have experienced this directly myself, my family. The question I have is whether it should be 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. That's broadly kind of the question I'm asking myself is, should we townwide say 1 a.m. is the cap, like that's the latest, or is 2 a.m.? That's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it, and I'm on the fence about it. Not a lot great happens after 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. So
in Brookline, anyway.
not well anywhere.
New York,
Maybe New York.
Mike.
So, and I would much prefer to set 1 a.m. as the standard. I think that anybody who wants to be open to 2 a.m. ought to come to the select board. It doesn't matter where they are. Whether they're in the heart of Coolidge Corner or on Commonwealth Avenue or wherever. I think that for about 20 years, I lived on Beacon Street, so a block closer than you. And for a part of that time, close enough to Fenway Park to pick up the stuff that happens after the ball game and for a few hours afterwards. And you're right. Every once in a while, there was a bit of noise, and then it went. Somebody come down the street, noisy, and they go away. But that's originating from outside of town. There's nothing we can do about that. I don't think there's any particular reason to encourage restaurants and bars to provide that opportunity in Brookline.
See, I actually, and I appreciate your comments, Mike. I'm actually asking myself, should we ever go past? Should we say 1 a.m. is the end time? And
That's it.
there's maybe some folks that already have 2 a.m. and they're grandfathered in, but we don't open till 2 a.m. That's
What the businesses said.
We haven't asked them
On that
that question. I think for a couple of them, the special events will be the kicker. And to David's point, when we raised this earlier, West Coast games, places that show things that don't go, that tend to go until, if your game starts at 10, it goes probably till midnight or 1. And then, so the question is, can you get people out of the bar in time, or are you throwing them out too early or whatever? But again, I think those are exceptional cases. I don't think those are every business. That's a question that we would have to take back to the planning team and obviously discuss further to get some information from the businesses that have those about how they use them. I think in some cases it is, particularly on Commonwealth Ave, parity with Boston. And for others, it's the special use cases.
For special use, anybody can come for a license for a particular event.
So the trick is, once you have an alcohol license, you can't get a 1-day license. Once you can get one or the other, but not both.
But even opening time is not necessarily serving of alcohol.
Yeah.
Even opening.
You can't alter the terms of your license, is my understanding. So you can't get around the standard terms of your license by getting a 1-day license.
Okay.
David?
I think I liked Paul's initial suggestion that 1 a.m. be the norm, but that restaurants would have to come to us if they wanted to stay open until 2. I wouldn't want to completely foreclose a business seeking a license until 2 for the reason that Chaz just reminded of, that I brought up when we previously discussed this. If your business model is to bring people in to watch West Coast games that start at 10 p.m., some start at 10:30. If it's a baseball game, that's going to go past 1 a.m. And then people are going to choose to go to an establishment in Boston instead of Brookline if they're getting kicked out in the 7th inning in the 3rd quarter. So I'd want to be very mindful of that. But we can get around the potential limitation on businesses by having those establishments come before the select board if they want to stay open until 2.
We always have that option.
I think we can, and that is something we can take from this. We can say, okay, it will be 1 in the special districts, and 1 in the midnight everywhere, 1 in the special districts for potential expedited consideration. 2 must always come to the select board.
I think that I think that's reasonable to have them come. I will ask one thing. We used to get minutes from the licensing subcommittee that summarize the public hearings, what we heard. We're not getting those now. Are we?
And what happened was and this is, it's really interesting oversight on our part. It's because now the panel has to approve its own minutes. It used to be you had to approve the minutes, and then we realized that there was a meeting law considerations there that you shouldn't be approving that panel's minutes.
Can we get draft meeting minutes from them?
Yes.
So when we're actually having these meetings, we can hear what people are saying.
Yes. From here on, we will make sure that the meeting minutes from the licensing panel meetings are in your packets.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
this is
we
a,
have to vote approval on the licensing panel for the minutes, or?
You don't have to vote approval for those minutes. They'll just be in your packet for review when.
No. I mean, I'm talking about, I'm on the licensing. panel
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, this is a public hearing, and I'd like to open the public hearing. I see that one person from the audience is coming to the podium. Actually, we have someone, you may have to sit down, Scott.
Yes, we actually have someone who signed up in advance, so that would be Fran Perler first. Fran, I'm going to promote you now. Fran. I have now promoted you. You can start your video and begin your 3 minutes when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Fran Perler, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 8 Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, speaking on behalf of myself. There may be some areas where it's appropriate to be open late at night, although I shudder to think about all those people going home at 1 or 2 a.m. after a long night of drinking and partying. However, many of our commercial zones are single block corridors embedded in residential areas with businesses as little as 3 feet away from residences. I would like to describe my personal experience with the JFK Crossing Harvard Street restaurant that has a late night weekend music permit and is only 40 feet away from a house with children. I really like this restaurant and its owner, but not the evening noise. In the summer, they open their front windows, essentially removing their Harvard Street wall. What is it like for the neighbors? Well, one summer night, I had to raise the volume on my TV to overcome the music, even after closing my windows. On another night, after 2 hours of listening to a maddening drum beat, I went over to the restaurant. The owner said that the police had just come because of a noise complaint. Police have been called to this establishment several times because of noise. I've spoken with the owner about noise complaints from my P8 constituents. We discussed ways to reduce noise for the houses behind the restaurant. However, when the Harvard Street windows are open, the music blasts throughout the immediate neighborhood. Patrons of these late night establishments park on nearby residential streets, especially in areas where various town programs are vastly reducing parking spaces on main streets. People seem to use their loudest voices as they walk to their cars. Voices carry late at night, waking up children and adults, making them very cranky when they have to get up early for work or school. I would hope that any late night openings would be prohibited from outdoor dining areas. I would hope that places that play late night music would be required to have noise remediation and sound insulation. And despite their best intentions, businesses will open windows and doors to cool off or to be COVID sensitive. That significantly increases noise to the surrounding neighborhoods. In summary, businesses open late at night will be noisy. Therefore, if the town does permit late night districts, they should be a specified distance from houses and apartments. Thank you. If I can
You have
have
30 seconds.
to respond to Bernard. So P8 is my precinct, and I agree with him that the Coolidge Corner district should go one more block to Stedman. There are at least 3 or 4 restaurants between Bedcott and Stedman that would appreciate later evening times. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Scott, you may approach the podium and begin your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Scott Ananian, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. Yeah, I didn't plan on speaking, but just had 2 cents to offer. One is that in addition to late night games, the Coolidge Corner Theater also has midnight showings that start at 11:59 p.m. on Friday. They've got 4 of them coming up in October. When your closing time is 1 a.m., you're kicking people out starting at 12:30, right? So it's the 2 a.m. seems late, but I think if you mentally back it up by how long you have till people start getting kicked out of the establishment, it's not quite as late as it seems. I do wish I was still young enough to take advantage of some of those late nights. I have fond memories of Deli House in Boston, which was open till I think 4 a.m. while it existed, and was the only place to go. And I think Brookline does have a commercial opportunity there. If it is open, if there are late night establishments, there aren't that many of them, and they attract people who need a place to sit and have some food late at night or get a drink. It's not always people guzzling alcohol just till closing time. It could be people who just want a pizza at 1 a.m. And finally, because I'm an old theater guy, I'll just also note that theater typically starts at 8. Not uncommon for a play to run 3 hours. You're already at 11 p.m. And again, if the closing time is midnight, that's half an hour to go and have a coffee after the show, if that. So there are legitimate opportunities for late night stuff, and I'm glad the board is taking the opportunity to allow our businesses to explore them. Thanks.
Thank you. If there's anyone else online who would like to speak, please raise your hand using the raise the hand feature at this time. And if there's anyone else in the room who'd like to speak. There are currently approximately 19 participants online and 3 individuals in the room, and it looks like no one is ready to speak at this time.
Okay, then I'd like to close the hearing. And any further discussion or people willing or ready to vote? John?
I'm ready to vote. I just do want to stipulate a couple of things. I'm ready to vote on the packages presented to us by Tiffany. I commend all of the staff who worked on this. I think we had good reason to sort of raise a question as to our policy on this matter. I think it's been dealt with, and I think the proposal is reasonable and a good one. I think Fran Perler has raised an issue which deserves further consideration. Doesn't necessarily require us to not vote this tonight, because really one of the primary issues that enters into the noise problem area is the entertainment licenses. It's not so much the liquor, it's not so much the opening hours, it's the entertainment. And as a person who's had the experience of living near an institution where they provide facilities for events, and who has experienced the incredible level of noise that can result on a hot night when they leave the doors and windows open to ventilate, and they've got a wedding party going on and a band, and you can't believe how much noise you can hear. It's all over your neighborhood. It's pounding because of drums. It's extremely annoying because of all of the bass sounds that come through over and over again. That was dealt with by a curtailment of any of that type of activity at 10 o'clock at night. And so what had been a huge headache, because you never knew when it was going to end, and you were trying to go to sleep at some hour after 10, maybe even 11, all of a sudden you'd hear it start, and then you'd say, come 10 o'clock, we'll be okay. I don't have to panic. And there's nothing more unpleasant than having to get up in your pajamas and go to a nearby event venue and say, when is this noise going to stop? And I won't say who had that experience, but maybe it's somebody here at this meeting tonight. So I'm going to vote for this, but I do think we should take a look at the limitations we put on entertainment hours.
And those will be taken up once a proposal comes to the select board. So we should just keep that in mind. Any other, Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I thought I heard from my colleagues that what we wanted to vote was the committee would do 12 up to 1 a.m.
Yep.
And then if someone wanted to have a 2 a.m. license, then they would have to have a public hearing in front of the select board. That would be a modification from what is currently proposed in Tiffany's presentation.
I'm fine with that.
You're okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I was interested in myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, then I'd like to move approval, and let's make sure I get this right. Move approval of the 4 designated districts that would allow restaurants and bars to apply on an expedited basis for a 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. closing times, with the 2 a.m. closing time being subject to approval by the select board. Is that the accurate?
So I would say I would drop the 2 a.m. from that. I would say the 1 a.m. would the proposal now would allow bars and restaurants in these districts to apply for expedited consideration up to 1 a.m. 2 a.m. licenses must come before the select board in all instances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, there's no difference between the districts then at this point, right?
Right. At 2 a.m., there's no difference between the districts.
Yeah.
At 1 a.m., there is a meaningful difference, because if you're in the district, you qualify for going to the panel. If you're not, you don't.
Okay.
And and I believe that over time, if we find that there's not issues, and maybe we can modify it further.
Right.
Okay, if we have for the record the correct statement of that vote, I move approval. John Van Scoyac,
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay. Next, boards and commissions interviews. Let's start off with the Brookline Commission on Disability.
Yes, and before we get started, I just wanted to note that Kiran Bhatia actually emailed me just a little bit ago to indicate that they'd like to withdraw their application. But Franklin Pineda Lopez is with us online. Franklin, I am promoting you now, and you should be able to share your video, and our chairman will begin the interview.
Tiffany, who withdrew?
Kiran Bhatia.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in being a member of the Brookline Commission on Disability.
Yes, hi, my name is Franklin, and
I'm sorry, we can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
That's
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Better.
Okay, hi. So hi, my name is Franklin. I've been using a wheelchair since the age of 2. I was hit by a car when I was 2.5. And so I know what it means to be using a wheelchair for over 30 years. And some of
Franklin,
the
can you actually just hold on 1 second? We're going to try to turn your volume up in the room.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. We're working on that right now. Here? Does that turn it up for the whole room?
Yep.
Franklin, can we try again?
hi.
I
That's
think
much
we can hear you much better now.
All right.
So
But yeah,
reintroduce yourself and why you want to be on the commission.
sure. Excuse me. So my name is Franklin Pineda Lopez, and the reason why I'm interested is because I am in a wheelchair. I got hit by a car when I was 2 years old, so I've been in a wheelchair ever since. And so I know growing up, as a wheelchair user, I faced a lot of barriers, a lot of a lot of difficult challenges. And so right now I'm currently a disability advocate at the Boston Center for Independent Living. Sorry. I'm an advocate for the Boston Center for Independent Living. I'm always trying to fight the good cause, the good fight, I guess. Yes, that is my reason why.
Thank you. Have you been able to attend any of the meetings, either Zoom or in person of the Disabilities Commission?
No, I mean I've there has been a couple times where we had to reschedule because I'm currently working a second job in the morning. I work at a Brookline pool, so I have to go to bed by a certain time to get the proper rest. So there has been a couple times where I've joined, but then because of time, there's always been reschedules.
John.
Franklin, thank you very much for your application. I'm going to raise an issue which is not, in any sense, Franklin, driven by your particular application, but is driven by some recent events that I have been involved in, involving problems of other committees, commissions, boards, et cetera, with poor attendance at meetings. And the crux of the matter, which strangely enough, I don't think we've ever addressed this, is that most boards, committees, and commissions already meet according to a semi-regular, if not regular schedule. For example, once a month on a Tuesday, or once a month on a Wednesday. And it works for the membership of the board, committee, or commission. And they can get regular attendance and meet the requirements of a quorum because of that. We never ask applicants for these boards, committees, and commissions. This is a board, committee, or commission that tends to meet once a month at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. Will you be available to attend that meeting? In fairness to the applicants and in fairness to the committees, I don't think we should be unknowingly populating these boards, committees, and commissions with people who from the get-go can't attend their meetings because they have a conflict. And because of one appointment, there has to be a reconfiguring of what was a carefully assembled schedule that met everybody's needs. So I just want to put that note on the table for us to consider as to whether we can figure out a way around this so that we don't walk into situations where we are creating attendance problems for committees by our new appointments.
So the committee, the Disabilities Commission meets the second Wednesday of every month at from 5:30 to 6. So it's a question of being available Wednesday evenings once a month. And so perhaps we should just say, Franklin, would that be possible for you?
Yes, that would be possible. I mean, I do apologize. I was just told it was an interview. I wasn't told, when to participate or how long to stay. I was just told it was an interview, so I wasn't sure which role I was playing. But in the near future, yes, I would be available during those times.
Okay, great.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
And I think the Disability Commission, if the only commission in town that does this, would be very, very sensitive to issues like that.
Yeah.
So
I also just wanted to point out, I think perhaps Franklin originally misunderstood what you were asking. And I think if Franklin, correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying about the rescheduling of this interview, not your attendance at Commission on Disability, because I actually do think that the Commission on Disability chair has spoken with Franklin, and also Franklin has been in connection with other members as well. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that he wasn't saying that. I think, Franklin, you weren't saying that you don't show up when you say you're going to show up to Commission on Disability meetings.
Correct.
great.
Good to hear.
Okay, any other questions or? Thank you, Franklin. I appreciate your interest in the commission, and we will make our appointments at a later meeting. But thanks for your
Sounds good.
interest.
Thank you.
Okay, next, the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. So our first applicant is Mark Gerber.
Yes, Mark Gerber is with us online. Mark, I've just promoted you. You should be able to start your video, and then the chairman will begin the interview.
Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
So please introduce yourself to the select board and give us a sense of why you're interested in being a member of the Police Commissioner Advisory Committee.
Sure. My name is Mark Gerber. I'm a town meeting member for Precinct 13. I was recently made aware of the committee. This is about 2 months ago. I wasn't even aware that we had a Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. Recent events here in Norfolk County actually made me, I guess, more concerned about police oversight and potential civil rights violations of citizens by the police. And so given that, I had reached out to some people within town, and they mentioned that, there's the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. You should really, get involved with that if you have an interest in what's going on with the police in town. And I have no particular axe to grind with the police in town. I think they do an excellent job, and I'm very happy with Police Commissioner Pastor. I just feel like I would like to be more involved because I feel like that there obviously are problems in other towns. I'd hate to think that there's a problem here in Brookline, but I would like to be part of any solutions.
Okay, you mentioned Norfolk County. We are a part of Norfolk County.
I know other parts of Norfolk County, obviously,
By
the
accident of
main,
history, even though we have no physical connection to the county. So what was your reference to Norfolk County
oh, the cases
about,
and
and its relationship to your interest in the
sure. The issues in Canton primarily, obviously, and Stoughton.
Oh, Karen Reed case.
With the Karen Reed case and now the Sandra Birchmore case, clearly cases where you had corruption within the police department manifesting itself with obviously people being much too familiar with each other to be willing to look into obvious crimes.
Yeah. How do you see the PCAC having a role in a situation like that, which is sort of outside of its area of responsibility?
Okay, I'm talking right now. Aaliyah, hold on. I'm sorry about that. That was my daughter. I don't know exactly if the PSAC would have a role in a situation like that. I do understand that the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee does get involved with reviewing complaints, ongoing complaints, not just complaints that have been sealed and are done with. I think that's an important role for a citizens committee to be involved with. Sometimes a select board can be too close to the police department. We're seeing that in Canton, where you're seeing a select board that clearly fails in its role in overseeing the police department. They've become extraordinarily friendly with the police department and have become part of the cover-up. Now, none of this is to suggest that there's anything like that going on in Brookline. What I'm saying is that this is why I think the PCAC was probably instituted in the first place, to provide a maybe a dispassionate outside group of citizens to also review what's going on with the police department. I have no particular experience in law enforcement or policing. My background is in banking. I work for a commercial bank here in Boston, so I don't come from a law enforcement background or a law background.
Okay, any other question? Paul?
Yep. Hi, Mark. Thank you for your application, willingness to speak with us. You mentioned in your application the school resource officers. That was particularly an item that you did have on an agenda. Could you talk a little bit about that and why you believe that should be reinstituted and what role perhaps the PCAC would play in that?
Okay. Well, so I have two children in public school right now, one freshman at the high school, one in the 5th grade at Lincoln School. And I've also had a daughter who attended a different high school in a different town who, and this would be the town of Needham. And I have seen in Needham the use of the police resource dog very actively within all the schools within Needham. I think their dog's name was Rocket. It's a golden retriever. It goes to the schools on a regular basis, tends to create a very good relationship, I think, with the community and the police, because that dog is everywhere. Social media, it's in the schools on a regular basis. The kids know it. The kids trust the police officers because of the dog. I think it's an important way in which to show, especially young people, the role of the police and be able to explain the role of the police to younger people. In addition, obviously, the dog provides therapeutic benefits. I know that. I've heard the police officers from Needham talking about some of the training that they do with the dog in terms of working with children. And I'm sure they do the same thing with Bear. When you go into a tough situation with the dog is able to calm, and it provides comfort to kids, especially in difficult situations. So I would like to see that re-implemented. I think it's a good program in other towns, and I think it's just unfortunate that we don't have it. I'd like to think that being on the advisory committee, I can be a voice to get that to happen. I don't know what the obstacles are in terms of getting resource dogs back into the resource officers with the dogs back into the school. I don't know if that's under the Police Commissioner Advisory Committee's role.
You know, so it ultimately would be the school committee who would.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And the superintendent of school.
Yeah, the super-
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know what we could do to advocate for it. So
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
the
assuming we can
advocacy
force
role would
it.
be very important. So, any other questions, John?
Hi, Mark, and
Hi.
thank you for coming forward and applying for this commission. In keeping with the point I made at the when the prior candidate appeared, the PCAC of late has been meeting Mondays at 7 p.m. So I just want to ask you, is there anything in your schedule that would prohibit your participating on a regular basis Mondays at 7 p.m.?
No, there's
No.
nothing on my schedule at Monday, 7 p.m.
Great, thanks.
You keep banker's hours, right?
I keep bankers. Do. I'm a
Okay.
9 to 5-er. Yes.
Okay. Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you for your interest in the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. And as I always say, we're going to make our decisions for appointments at a later meeting. But we appreciate your presence here.
Thank you very much, Board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, next is John Hilliard.
Great. John Hilliard's in the room with us.
Okay.
Hey.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
So introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in being a member of the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee.
Sure. Good evening, members of the Select Board, Administrator Carey, Assistant Administrator Oliva. My name is John Hilliard. I'm honored to be here tonight and talk a little bit about myself and share why I'm interested in serving on the committee. A little bit of background. I am not the John Hilliard from the Boston Globe and Brookline Tab.
We were worried about that.
Different John Hilliard, just for context. I've spent the last 15 years working at tech companies. I'm currently the director of engineering at a blockchain company called Polygon. I spend a lot of time looking at code and analyzing data, but first and foremost, I lead teams, which means I spend a lot of time thinking about vision, strategy, growth of my people, and ultimately figuring out the policies and how to get a team to succeed and work together and ultimately deliver results. And I'm hopeful that my focus and experience in that arena is something I could bring to the table on this committee. On the community front, I've lived in the Boston area for about 20 years. I moved to Brookline with my wife 5 years ago. We love the town and the neighborhood. We live in Coolidge Corner. And it's a really special place. A year and a half ago, I got elected as a TMM in Precinct 11. And my goals at the time were really to meet the neighbors, feel more integrated, learn about the issues, and find ways to serve the community overall. And I think I'm here today as an extension of that, the same drive, like wanting to find ways to serve the community and learn more and make the community better any way that I can. More specifically for the police committee, the police play a critical role in the foundational safety of a community, full stop. Several of my family members are retired police or veterans of various services. And I think this does inform my perspective. That being said, I really strive to be very open-minded and data-driven. And I still feel new to the town, especially town government. And I would really try to bring open-mindedness, curiosity, and my experience to this committee.
Good. So in your application, you talk about improving police community relations, particularly outreach programs and feedback mechanisms. We have a number of outreach programs. We used to, at any rate, the school resource officer that we were talking about earlier, and a similar walk and talk program in Housing Authority. And through the PCAC, we've developed feedback mechanisms for people to either complain or praise police or things. So what do you think of those? And what type of thoughts do you have with respect to how we can improve outreach, particularly?
Yeah, so I grew up in a really small town, and I think one of my sort of formative, besides sort of family members that were ex-police, was being in ancillary involvement with the Explorers Unit, which was kind of like Boy Scouts, but police related. And I felt like that gave me a lot of, respect for the job. And I also felt like it helped me have a less fearful relationship with police generally, and being able to develop a relationship with police when I got stopped. And even if it felt unfair that I was stopped, I at least felt like a little bit more comfortable than some of my friends that just only knew police in sort of a, conflict way. And so I do think that community outreach is really important. And I have family members that really took that seriously. And I think that it was helpful for their relationships with the communities that they served.
John.
I just want to continue my practice and say, would you have any problem with attendance?
I primarily
great.
work with, I work remote. I work with a lot of people in Europe, so I work very early, and then my evenings are very free.
Great. And I also want to add, I don't know if you remember, but you and I had a very nice introduction on the election day, the year that you first ran for town meeting, and you were campaigning outside the polls in the at Driscoll School,
Yes.
right? Yeah, yeah.
In the rain. Yeah.
And I was doing the same, and we said hi, introduced ourselves to each other. And I admired John, how he went about running for town meeting. He's kind of a door-to-door guy, right?
Yes.
And really got to know his precinct. And I was very excited to be introduced to him just because I thought he's bringing a background to Brookline, and he's getting, immersed in civic life in a way that is very positive. And I'm glad to see that you're going beyond town meeting and now looking at maybe service on the PCAC. So thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your interest in the PCAC. And as I tell everyone, we're going to make our selection or make our appointments to the committee at a later meeting. But we appreciate your interest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bernard, is it 2 openings or 3?
We have 3 vacancies.
3 vacancies.
And then the appointment or designation of a chair.
Okay, thank you.
And we designate chairs.
Yes.
Okay.
Next is Young Park, who is with us online. Young, I am promoting you now, and you'll be able to start your video. And once you've done that, the chairman will begin your interview.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? So my name,
We're fine. So introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee and what you can bring to that committee.
sure. My name is Young Park, and always I introduce myself Young forever. And I have been looking for some volunteer opportunity for the town Brookline, which I have been living for last 17 years. So somehow this vacancy just I found, and I decided to apply for this. Do I have much experience with the police work? No. Do I really know much about Brookline town, how things working? No. Did I really grow up here in the States? No, not really. So that means I do not have much experience. However, though, I have also very strong interest in police work. Only this year, even if just living here in Brookline for last 17 years, only this year, twice I happened to really talk with the policemen and women here in Brookline. They just like talk and look amazing. They just young and hard, and the way their attitude very positive, very bright, but at the same time, they really know what they are doing. And I just wanted to be friend with those people. That's very simple and my interest. And that's why I decided to apply for this. And recently I have been working as a volunteer for Boston Public Library for last 2 years. And I just get to know people, their librarian by name. And what I hope is that I just can continue to do the same thing with for police department here in Brookline. Just only one meeting per month, but there are also lots of things to share, I imagine. I can also listen, I can share, I can also look for a way if there is anything I can help, make a contribution, or just be a good friend, listen to. That's why I'm here now.
Okay, thank you. So I've read through your CV, which is quite extensive, primarily in the library sciences, which could be relevant. But tell me how your background in library sciences and other things would be particularly useful on the PCAC.
Yes, now I'm working as a full-time, actually I start work as a full-time librarian in a small academic library. And I've been around the public library for last 2 or 3 years. And also I see myself as an educator. And somehow I just like get to know people, librarian. I just, out of a casual conversation, it's not like official meeting, but casual conversation. Since I just get to know those people, they also share what they want to do, what they need. And mentoring initiative was one of those they really wanted to have, just like a career advice and also emotional support. And also actually now as we just start writing things together, as we start doing interview with those people together, we just get to know actually what I see is going to another level, something to do the career education, something to do the policy issue. And risk, of course, the most important, it's after all, it's risk about how we deal with the resource. And actually that makes me very wanted to get to know more, wanted to do a little, make more contribution to those people. And I just want to have the same idea, same attitude to the police department here in the town where I actually have lived. So do I have a specific idea at the moment? No. But am I willing to really explore? Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Paul?
I guess I just want to make a statement. Your CV is very impressive. You've been published over 30 times. I guess we should call you Dr. Park because you do have your doctorate. It is very impressive. I think, for me, the most important aspect of participating in this committee is being able to have an open mind and listen and be analytical. Can you speak a little bit about your background and how that, because I really think that this willingness to listen and not come in with a set perspective, because it is a complex subject, and it is about our society and our local society. Can you talk a little bit about how your background might help with that type of analysis and perspective?
Please, just go. Thank you so much for really, to say good thing about me, but you just call me young, because that's how I answer. Now, let me try to answer to your question this way. I do not share pretty much. I mean, I don't hide anything, but I do not also put sort of things Dr. Park as like upfront. That's one of the way really stop communication with other people, different people. I just love to listen to people having different background. That's the first thing to do is like remember their names, first name. Also, I also stay with them as a first name basis, just like we are just the same people. Even if we have so many different background, so much different ideas, so many different ideas and different perspectives, but still we are just like the same human beings, so feeling the same things, like what is good and what is right. The basic things, I do believe we also share the same things. And yeah, of course, I guess that such like police work can be very complicated. And I do not say I'm gonna get to know everything within a couple of months. I'm not that stupid either. But I'm willing to listen, humbly listen, daily basis, monthly basis, so they get to know people, police work, those people. And as a part of, it's not duty, but as a part of a fun to the person living here in Brookline.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, thank you for your interest in the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. And as I've told other people, we will be making our appointments to the committee at a later meeting. But thank you for applying. Okay, our next interviewee is Elizabeth Kernan.
Is Elizabeth Kernan in the room? Elizabeth Kernan, if you're online, can you raise your hand using the raise the hand feature? I do not. Oh, there you are. Okay. It is Liz on here.
That's close enough.
Yes, I have just promoted you. And you should be able to start your screen and then the chairman will begin the interview.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
Please
evening.
introduce yourself, your background, et cetera, and explain why you would like to be a member of the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, especially on an exciting debate night we have coming up. But my name is Liz Kernan, and I've been a resident of Brookline in Precinct 10 in Coolidge Corner since 2021. I'm currently a data scientist and statistician at Harvard Business School. So my day-to-day job involves trying to make sense of data for Harvard faculty, which could definitely be beneficial to the work done in this committee, especially for public hearings. Even though I work mostly in business data, my real passion and experience lies in using data and statistics to improve social policy issues, including race, class, gender, and criminal justice, which I explored in my master's degrees in sociology from UMass Boston and in government from Harvard. In my time at UMass Boston, I contributed to a study that evaluated gang prevention measures in Boston. And I've also volunteered as a tutor for incarcerated individuals studying for their bachelor's degrees at Norfolk Prison in Massachusetts. So I'm further looking for more opportunities to be involved in criminal justice research and improvement. And one of my favorite things about living here is how safe I feel, especially as a woman living alone. And I would say there are not that many places in the country where I would feel totally fine walking home at night by myself, especially not in the DC area where I'm originally from. And the community I grew up with, which were majority Black, were all very fearful of the police. So I know firsthand how imperative it is for the police and the community to maintain trustworthy relationships to foster a more peaceful town, and how important of a role this committee plays in terms of providing checks and balances to the police department. So using my academic and professional expertise, I would love to contribute more to the town that I've come to love in the past 3 years. And I've already done a little bit of that by becoming a poll worker for Precinct 7. I'm working with Scott Ananian, whose full disclosure is also on the committee and told me about this position. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike?
Yeah, Liz, you've applied for 3 different boards and commissions: Commission for Women, Commission for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations, and Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. And each of those requires some time commitment.
Sure.
And I think it's kind of an odd question to ask, but is there a rank order here, a priority that where you'd like to get your feet wet before you get in all the way?
Sure. I think I was just checking off what really interests me. I wasn't even sure if there were openings in the other committees, but I would say this one is the most I'm interested in the most, definitely.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. I did have a question. So talk to me about your concern or your interest in using data to contribute to equity and race relations, et cetera, in Brookline, given the Brookline situation or Brookline environment.
Sure. I was in preparation for this interview, I was looking through the annual Brookline Police Department 2023 report. So it's very interesting to look through, but I was also, it also popped up a lot of questions that I had that it wasn't included in the report, like were the people who committed these crimes working in the town? I know that there's data on whether they're residents or not. I'm also interested in nationality of the people doing these crimes. So I don't even know if there's such data available, but I would love to dig into that further and kind of create policies based on that and programming.
Paul.
Yep. Elizabeth, thank you for your application. I have two questions for you based on some things you said. One, I'd maybe expand a little bit on why do you feel safe in Brookline? I'm really curious about that. What do you think the factors are that are making you feel safe as a person who lives alone and is female? And then the second question is, you mentioned growing up in DC and not feeling safe, and and how, if you could talk about that, maybe juxtapose how these two things come together and how it may serve you well on the PCAC.
It's an interesting question. I mean, court directly, relates to crime. I don't see a lot of crime happening around me in Brookline, whereas I saw a lot of that in DC. I think the police relationships might be better in Brookline than in DC. As I mentioned, a lot of the friends and community that I grew up with were fearful, and probably rightly so in a lot of cases, where they had bad experiences, getting pulled over, the whole driving while black, all of that. Yeah, I think in general, that's just how I have felt living here. I don't witness a lot of crime. Everyone's been very polite and pleasant. And as a poll worker, I got to speak to Officer Gruber, who is assigned to our precinct. And I believe he's also one of the higher paid police officers in Brookline. But he was very great to chat with, and I was pleasantly surprised with my interaction with him.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Kernan.
Thank you.
As I always say, we're going to be making appointments to the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee at a later meeting, but we appreciate your application and your presentation to the Select Board. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, that concludes the Police Commissioners Advisory Committee. Next, Age Friendly Cities Committee. We have Ruth Nemzoff. It looks like she's here in the audience. Good evening.
I just need to say that Ruth is a former neighbor.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Nice to see you.
See you. I did notice you.
So please introduce yourself to those of us who don't know you and why you're interested in the Age Friendly Cities Committee and what you can contribute to that committee.
Well, I grew up here in Brookline, Beaconsfield, Tappan, Rawson Road, Clinton Road, went to the Runkle School, graduated Brookline High, then spent years in New York, India, and New Hampshire, where I was eventually assistant minority leader of the New Hampshire legislature. And I moved down here, and we lived in Newton, and I was quite active in the community. I ran for governor's council, lost by less than 1% of the vote, but I do love meeting people. At any rate, then I moved to Brookline, but I didn't really engage in the community because I was still very involved in Newton, and it's just a few feet away. And now, as I've gotten older, I realize I want to be engaged in my community. And I notice, I read the Harvard study on aging, and it talks about how relationships are really important, and they're really important for living longer. And I've written books on parents and adult children and in-law relationships. And I thought, well, when I saw this ad for this position, I thought, well, that's what aging is about. It's about really making close relationships, keeping your old close relationships, and that maybe I'd have something to offer. I also felt that some of my experience in the past might be useful in this. I know that the Jewish Federation of North America did a study of both Christians and Jews or on people of many backgrounds and what did they want in their aging years. And what they wanted was community and work that was significant, not necessarily paid, but significant. And so I thought a lot about that for this group. I think we're extremely lucky in Brookline for all the wonderful things, programs we have for people as they age. But I was really motivated to run when a friend of mine who can walk, but can't walk very far, couldn't go to his bridge games at the senior center. And his son bought for him a 4-wheel scooter. And I thought, oh boy, our sidewalks are going to have yet another group claiming to need more space. And we will need more space because more and more of us who might be perfectly able to walk might not be able to walk long distance. We already know there's a problem with parking there. So this got me thinking about, okay, what kinds of rules and regulations can we change to make things easier? So for example, and how can we use all the resources around? So for another example is we have how many students around? Lots. And as you know, there are programs like Nestle where students can live in people's homes. But for some buildings, that's illegal. You can't rent a part of your room. So I was thinking about, well, what about changing some of the rules and regulations? And I was thinking about the other resources we have. We have swimming pools around. Now, we have a wonderful program at the high school and it's open wonderful hours in the summer, but restricted hours during the year. And yet we have hotels, we have other places with pools. And how can we get these resources that already exist to serve people in the community? And I thought, well, that would give some terrific volunteer jobs for lawyers or for real estate agents to look at some of these things. So that was some of my thinking. That's what I would think I might bring to this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the select board?
No, I think Ruth has quite I'll toot her horn as an author. She has quite a list of publications that are very impressive.
So, I'm sorry.
Very quick. I'm the select board liaison to the Age-Friendly Cities Committee, and in that capacity, I was at a meeting with Ruth just today, and she's already contributing to the Age-Friendly Cities Committee, for which I thank you. And that committee has a way of attracting people who just come forward and want to serve on it. And Ruth is typical of people who come forward with a lot to offer, and I'm really glad you did.
Okay.
Paul.
Yep, I was just going to say first, it's nice to see you again. I saw you online today. I was participated in the Age-Friendly Cities Committee this morning, and from time to time,
yes,
people just pop up that blow me away. And I am so impressed by your background.
Thank you.
I need to read the book on parenting adult children. See if I can, maybe I need
very
some
cheap on Amazon these days.
Hopefully it'll be on my Kindle. And I think your legislative background, your proven ability to work with people, and just the fact that you're willing to step forward and contribute. I just want to say thank you. It is,
Thank you.
We are really blessed to have individuals like yourself, and all the folks that come forward. But your background is quite impressive. So thank you.
Thank you. One question I did have is I think I could serve over Zoom, and I want to be sure because I am going away a couple of months in the winter to visit my daughter. And but I would, just have to stay up later or earlier. I'd have to look at the calendar and figure it out and count my figures. And but I could do that. But I did want to be upfront about that I do travel to visit my 11 grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be no problem.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Well, thank you, Ms. Nemtsov. And as I've told everyone, we're we'll make our appointments to this committee at a later select board meeting, but we appreciate you coming forward and making application.
Great. And thank you for your time and for your service.
Finally,
Good.
we are too, if we speak fast enough. Next, we have the Brookline Commission for the Arts, Mr. Seidman, who's in the audience. Please step forward, introduce yourself to those of us who don't know you. I know you. And tell us why you're interested in the Brookline Commission for the Arts and what you can contribute to that committee.
So my name is Katha Seidman, and I'm a town meeting member in Precinct 2. And although most of you know me as a board member of Brookline for Everyone and a housing advocate, in a parallel universe, I'm a multimedia artist working in metals, wood, and fabric, as well as painting, photography, and installation. And besides my artwork, I have also worked as a production designer for television, mostly working on historic drama documentaries. I have received 5 Emmy nominations and 3 Emmy Awards for that work. I applied to be a commissioner on the Brookline Commission for the Arts because I feel that the work of the commission would allow me to combine my knowledge of the arts and the needs of artists with my knowledge of Brookline's development environment, so our community can experience the arts in more places and times in our everyday lives. Artist work creates the lively, creative spark that makes communities exciting, and there are always many more artists of all kinds than there are venues. I would like to explore ways to institutionalize as many different opportunities as possible for all the arts. For example, a program where empty storefronts can become pop-up art shows or performances, a series of mini concerts and shops with enough floor space similar to the basement jazz shows at the VFW, opening our schools for performances and other events over the summer, utilizing open areas like the newly covered outdoor space at Lower Beacon for pop-up events like a beer garden or a performance, and open other areas around Brookline to outdoor arts exhibits similar to Studio Without Walls along the Muddy River. As a first step to accomplishing these goals, I would first hope to listen to other commissioners to see what they've tried before, what worked and what didn't, and bring artists and Brookline arts organizations into that conversation at regular intervals. Those are some of my ideas about what I like to do to help the commission on the arts explore and to accomplish. So if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? So I'll ask a question.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you have that artistic background, which is very, very interesting. I mean, but you talk about, art as sort of, presentations in various venues, et cetera. Have you given any thought to art as a tool used in schools to sort of help students in the learning? I mean, if that's clear, but
Yeah.
your art not as something to experience, to enjoy, but a way of sort of help connecting students' creativity with their learning process.
So that's not my personal skill base.
Expertise, but
it's not my personal expertise, but multimodal learning is really important. And it's really important, especially for kids who have executive functioning difficulties. And the more you can do that, either via translating, I don't know that it needs to be art per se, but using the materials that art provides can be really, really useful. It's an interesting arena that certainly the Arts Commission could explore and work with. It's like I said, it's not my expertise, so it's not where I think of going, but I know that through experiences with my son, how essential that is. So yeah. Could totally get into that.
Okay, Paul.
Thanks, Katha. So you had mentioned a little bit of, I think, art in the intersection of development or place. today I attended a meeting, I forget which one, John, you were at it, might have been the small business
Yeah,
development.
small business.
And there was an individual there talking about place and how, outdoor dining, for example, and pop-ups help people to spend time in a place versus being inside and missing what's happening. Can you talk a little bit? You mentioned the St. Mary's covered food court, outdoor dining area that's completely underutilized, by the way. There's a tremendous opportunity. Can you talk a little bit about how your experience and what your ideas might have to help create place?
Yeah, so just think of Brookline Day. Okay, that happened on Sunday. There were lots of people around. There was music all over the place. There were certain performances happening. People really were there for an event. The more you could make an event, say at where Lower St. Mary's, you took that over for an event like a beer garden or for some evening. It gives people a sense that this is where action happens. It's true when Somerville has the band concerts that's over a weekend, that they have all these, I don't remember what it's called, but over a couple of days, they have a whole lot of bands and everybody comes there. Everybody all of a sudden really knows that Davis Square is a happening place and it's very exciting and they want to participate in that. So I think that's the kind of thing I'm envisioning, that there are different opportunities in different areas, and getting the businesses involved would be really important. So it's a way of talking to them, like, what do you need? And talking to artists and say, what kind of venues can you use? And sort of putting that together.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
No, I
sorry,
just want to comment that I really like that answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And I just want to comment that one of the things I love about this process is people that you're already well acquainted with, you learn something you never even knew about them before. And I really didn't fully appreciate and barely knew of your deep background as an artist and your deep background in television. And I salute you on both of those.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's very impressive.
I was going to read you the most recent installation, which is a 3D graphic novel that has it's called Fugitive Colors, and it's about how AI there's a junta has taken over this place and transformed what was originally a free and open communications grid to a now weaponized surveillance apparatus. Armed with masks, drones, and eyeballs, magnifies, seizes those who dare to show their color. Color was once enshrined in law. It was a birthright recognized as bestowing kindness, wonder, individuality, along with curiosity and the capacity to dream. Now all expressions of color have been outlawed. If captured, fugitives are transported to an abandoned munitions factory in Grisai for desaturation. Now, those of you who are painters know that fugitive colors lose their color over time. Grisai is a black and white painting, and desaturation is what happens to fugitive colors when they're
Even photographers who use Photoshop know what you're talking about.
Thank you for applying.
Okay, thank you for applying, and we'll make our appointments at a later meeting.
Yeah, it's universal.
All right.
Okay, next, question of approving the moderator's request for a hybrid special meeting on Tuesday, November 19, 2024, special town meeting. Okay. So
If we say no, can we skip it?
The moderator's not here tonight, but he did submit the request. This is the first town meeting that Neil is submitting this request. Previously, Kate Pulverman had submitted those requests. So he's consulted with town council and with Segal on health issues and has requested a hybrid meeting for town meeting in November.
You raise your hand, or are you just taking your glasses off?
Just taking my glasses off so I can see you.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
fairly straightforward. Unless there's anything else, I'd like to move approval of the moderator's request for a hybrid special town meeting on Tuesday, November 19, 2024. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Whoops. Oops.
So we can cover the next item too, if you're ready.
Yep, we're ready.
So the warrant closed last Thursday at noon, and we had 20 warrant articles that were filed. You have all of those individually in your packet, and tomorrow we'll post the full warrant with everything online, but it is currently in the select board packet. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of what was filed. So we have our traditional unpaid bills and collective bargaining warrant articles. We are just making a small appropriation for transportation network funds. We are not needing a budget amendment this year because our state aid numbers came in maybe $40,000 off from where we were. So it's not worth reopening the budget for that small of an adjustment. We have a proposal to create a veterans tax work-off program, a proposal to create a youth council, a question of authorizing the select board to sign a restrictive covenant for the Pudding Stone property over near Hancock Village. And then we have a series of zoning related warrant articles. Kara had come before you a couple of weeks ago explaining a lot of these. And then we have a couple of petitioner items. I'll kind of do my little shorthand of the way that I understand that these are, but obviously not a zoning expert. So I apologize if I'm not adequately describing these. There was a proposal about the maximum story height in select districts, 2.5 story height in certain districts. Another proposal on the lot size for single family conversions. Another proposal for the ability to create a third unit in T districts. A proposal to amend the Harvard Street zoning, particularly around materials and uses. Another proposal around the Harvard Street area around design guidelines. A proposal that addresses some issues around outdoor lighting, particularly in residential areas. An amendment to the sign bylaw around some commercial areas. Another proposal for addressing the space between two buildings. And then another proposal for accessory dwelling units in order to comply with a recently changed state law. After that, we have an amendment to the tree preservation bylaw. We have a home rule petition around bidding and relationships with nuclear companies or nuclear weapons. Another home rule petition around rodenticides. And then a resolution on Jewish Heritage Month. And then another resolution on a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. So those are your 20 warrants.
Thank you. Any questions from the select board?
I didn't realize that we had nuclear weapons in Brookline. We've had this discussion about a vehicle.
We can't contract with companies who also build.
Is that it? Okay.
Or their parent company,
I got it.
subsidiaries.
I will let you know if we have to buy a nuclear weapon.
Right.
No, I realized that, Bernard. I'm sorry.
Okay, unless there are any questions, and this is not a hearing, so I move approval of the warrant for the November special town meeting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay.
The
And
next
now we
item-
have one of those warrant articles.
We figured we could tackle an easy warrant article, Article 1, which is unpaid bills. At this time, we do not have any, so the recommendation would be for no action.
Okay. And we are 35 minutes before Mike leaves. Of course, we'll still have a quorum then, unless someone else leaves. But okay, so you're going to present that. So okay, this is no action because there are no unpaid bills. Okay. Good.
Correct. We still need to have the hearing though in order for the board to take their action.
Right.
Public hearing.
This is a public hearing, so if anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom would like to speak to warrant article number 1 regarding unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year, please indicate by raising your hand.
There are approximately 2 individuals online and 2 individuals in the room, and no one is raising their hand at this time.
There's something else on TV that people.
There might be.
The Red Sox game.
Setting a new low.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have to put this on the agenda because if we have a bill from a prior fiscal year that's not paid, town meeting has to approve it. And we usually do, and they usually do. But Mike and I know about a situation where town meeting refused to approve a bill from a previous fiscal year because there's some controversy about legal services. But that doesn't happen in Brookline, so. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing since there's no one interested in talking about unpaid bills. And move no action on warrant article number 1 with respect to unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman. Aye.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, I think next is town meeting outcomes. I think that's Chaz.
Yes.
Okay.
So at the request of Select Board Member Paul Warren and one of our town meeting members, Mike Toffel, we've had meetings with town clerk and the moderator to talk about an issue that some town meeting members have had with regards to tracking warrant articles as they go along the process after they've been voted on by town meeting. Basically, what happens after a warrant article is passed, or even not passed in some cases? What are the next steps? We wanted to create a single sort of clearinghouse, a repository of information about what happens to your warrant articles when they're passed, before they either, if they're a bylaw, they become embedded in the code, or if they are an acceptance of state law, what happens next, what the timeline is, how the Attorney General votes on handles those things. So we've come up with this draft memorandum of understanding that memorializes our roles and responsibilities. The town clerk obviously has ones that are most immediately relevant to town meeting during and the immediate aftermath of. The moderator has more long-term vision to develop a sort of all things town meeting website. That's his vision, and we're working to support him on that. We're hoping that town meeting members will be able to build that out, and we'll be able to provide support. And then on the select board office, what we would like to do is basically update a chart on the town meeting files page that lists all warrant articles offered in any town meeting going forward on a prospective basis, the action taken on them, future actions pending, and a point of contact for any questions. And so I'll show you an early draft of what this is going to look like.
And while he's pulling that up, if I could make just a brief comment. So this might, yeah, very brief, but a little bit background.
And then do it.
Because, okay, may I have permission, Bernard? Thank you. Because I want to give a little more context and some credit to Mike Toffel. Mike Toffel reached out to me. He wanted to file a warrant article back last May. He was going to put on the warrant to build into the bylaws and memorialize a process to keep town meetings members informed as to the status of various actions that town meeting has approved. And I did this with another town meeting member who was going to file another warrant article, if you remember, around transparency and notification. I think for email addresses, right? For for FOIA requests. And Mike, I really appreciate that Mike was willing to hold off. We met with the town administrator and the town moderator and the town clerk, and we came up with an agreement as to how we can make this happen without having to go through a warrant article. I actually attempted this with 2 warrant articles that are on the warrants this time that I actually think we could have done through executive action by the select board. We may still want to do that, frankly. But I think this is important to accomplish this, because I think it sends an important message out to town meeting members and the public that they don't have to go the route of bringing a warrant article and all that goes along with that to actually affect change in policy. And this is a perfect example of it. So I want to thank Chaz for drafting it and helping to pull it together, and Mike Toffel for nudging us along.
And thank you for taking the initiative on this, because that's an issue that has been around for many years. When things that could be easily handled by executive action by the select board or town department become warrant articles, and we go through all the rigmarole that involves, so.
So you can see here up on the screen, there's a draft of this document. I
And
apologize.
this is basically what Melissa does every year,
That's
right?
exactly right. She did. So we would
For
start
the select board.
Right. We would start from that and we would go from there. And we would just update this on a quarterly basis on the town's website, with the understanding that as things move towards, there you can see here on this. So this is the list from last time. This is from spring 2024. So you have all 19 of the original warrant articles and you have the 2 specials. You have a brief description of what they are, the type of warrant article, the favorable action. This open closed will be a toggle, so you'll be able to filter them. So you could just show open warrant articles, things that still have things pending, and then their status. So a lot of these are done. There's no further action necessary. And so, but still, if you have questions, here are the office or the individual to contact. We will then list their email if there's a website, and we'll put here when this item was last updated. So, for things that are archived, you can clearly see hasn't been updated in a while. But otherwise, we will continue updating them on a quarterly basis until they are in the no further action category. So right now there are 2 still outstanding, both of which are home rule petitions. One is at the legislature and one has passed through the Article 97 and now is in MIPA review. So I think it's actually almost done with MIPA review. So that's where we are, and we'll update that on a quarterly basis.
Great, thank you. And this is a public hearing.
It's not,
Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry, reading the wrong thing. But we do have to vote.
Yeah, you do. And I will just say there are a couple of minor edits to the MOU that I want to make that don't affect operations. It's just about clarifying what I've talked here about updates will continue until such time as no further action is necessary.
And we have agreement from the moderator, from the town
Moderator and
clerk.
town clerk are both signed off on this.
Okay.
But again, I want to give them the chance to make some final edits and reviews. I also think I spelled Neil's name wrong on the signature. Sorry, Neil.
So we're going to vote on this subject to further clarification.
My goal is to bring this back to you in the miscellaneous agenda once it's final.
Okay.
So we're authorizing you to go forward and negotiate and complete this. So I move approval of the select board's authorization, or how do you say that? Authorizing the town administrator to negotiate and execute a memorandum of agreement regarding responsibilities for circulating information on outcomes from town meetings. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Finally, boards and commissions, reappointments. Question of reappointing the following candidates to various boards and commissions. Let's start off with the Small Business Development Committee. David Gladstone. All in favor of appointing David Gladstone to the Small Business Advisory
You
Committee?
want to do these in omnibus, Bernard, or?
Well, we have 25 minutes. Do you want?
You really want to do that, huh? Really want to
Okay,
do
let's
that?
do it in omnibus.
Well, but I do have a question if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to be sure are we dealing with 2 different categories of appointments here? One being reappointments of some people, the other being new people on commissions and boards being appointed for the first time? And if so, shouldn't we at least break apart those 2 votes?
My understanding, reading.
No
Tiffany,
reappointment.
So
correct me if
these
I'm
are
wrong, but-
for the 1, 2, 3, 4 commissions or committees listed. The first 4 are all reappointments. The last one with the Council on Aging, these are all technically, as I understand it, members who have been serving. So they're either being reappointed to positions they're currently in as citizen members or associate members, or they're getting promoted from an associate member to a voting citizen member.
Right.
Okay, and this is
Yeah,
from
that's my
a
understanding.
list submitted by Ruth Ann and
Correct.
Yolanda? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just read off, I think for the record, I'll read off Small Business Development Committee, David Gladstone. Preservation Commission, Peter Kleiner. Brookline Commission on Disability, Robert P. Heist. Conservation Commission, Marcus Quigley and Roberta Schnoor. Council on Aging, here it's a question of reappointing the following members as citizen members: Judith Kaysen and Alberta Lipson. And question of reappointing the following members as associate members: Clara Chen, Rena Jacobson, and Joanne Katz. And finally, question of reappointing the following associate members to citizen members: Peggy McGuire and Monique Richardson. With that, all in favor of those appointments and reappointments, please indicate by saying aye. John Van Scoyac.
Aye.
Michael Sandman.
Aye.
Paul Warren.
Aye.
David Perlman.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. And with that, our business is over unless someone would like to make a public comment at the end. But we didn't go over the 15 minutes, so I guess we don't need to do that, do we?
Nope. Nobody left.
Okay.
So our meeting's over and we can go watch the Red Sox game or
Something else.
whatever's on TV.
Yeah.